Okay, we're going to work on using cosine law. Here's one version of cosine law. And they might show you three different versions. And the reason there would be three different versions is because in a triangle, you can kind of be solving for three different sides. But really, you don't need to memorize all three. You could just memorize one of the versions, okay, and then work on renaming your triangle different names. And we'll talk about how you do that. First of all, and it depends what you want to solve for. For instance, if you're using this cosine formula, the idea is you're always looking for side A or angle A. And this is actually the formula to solve for the angle A. Now you don't have to memorize this one either. You can kind of just manipulate this one above. But if you'd prefer to just look off one and plug numbers in, technically this is the way to solve angles, and this is the way to solve a side. Okay? So, like I said, to name a triangle, we talked about this before. If I were to call this angle A, that means side A would be the opposite, so the one on the bottom. If we were to call this angle B, this would be our opposite, and then finally C, and this would be our side C, right? So, in other words, if they're asking me to actually solve for angle B and I want to use this formula, actually, let's say side B because this is for sides, I actually have two ways about doing this. I can put the B out here and then make this A and make this A, and it kind of changes the whole formula. Or I just keep the same formula I was doing before and I rename it. I'm going to turn this into side A and this into angle A. Okay, because it doesn't technically matter. This formula will work every time, okay? Okay, so using this idea, let's say we have this triangle here. And the other thing with cosine law is you usually use cosine law if you have a side, an angle in between and a side, or if you were to have all three sides. Now in this case we don't have all three sides, but we do have a side angle side, okay, which means we're solving for this opposite side, so we're going to use the formula above. Now I want to name this triangle. You can see it has no letters. Because our formula, the way we've memorized it, is, I'll color code it a little, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2ab cos. I'm going to try to squeeze everything in there, okay? So a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c, and then times cos of angle A. Okay, so there's our little formula. And because we said this solves for A, I'm going to want to name this angle and this side specifically. What should I call them?
If we want to name the sides?
Yeah, if we want to name the sides to fit into our formula.
X would be, well, the angle of 50 would be A.
Yeah, that's right. Which means X is now what?
A.
A.
Well, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. So that will be what we're looking for in our formula. And then the other two, is it really important how we set it up?
Not really.
No, it doesn't really matter. It'll work out either way. So we'll call this B and B, and then this C and C. Okay, good. So now that we've done that, we can just essentially plug into our formula. Now, A is unknown, so we'll leave that as our red at A squared. We don't know what it is. Okay, what is our B? Do we know what the distance of B is?
60.
Yeah, that's right. It's 60. Okay, so B was 60 squared. Plus what is C?
80.
Yeah, that's right. 80 squared. And then minus 2 times, and B was 60 times 80. And then technically this is times cos. And what's angle A in this case?
50.
50. Okay, so we've now plugged everything into the formula. So if you notice, we only have one variable. We're trying to solve for this variable. So we just kind of got to go through bedmath. And the bedmath to this can actually be tricky. So let's continue to the next step. We're going to do the rest all in black, okay? So a squared is equal to, this actually ends up being 3,600, I believe. Okay, when I square those, this will be 6,400. We'll do a little quick calculator for the other one. It's technically negative 2 times 60 times 80. So we're left with negative 9,600 or minus 9,600, however you want to read that. And remember, that has to be multiplied by our cos 50. And maybe you work best with doing cos 50 as a decimal, so let's actually figure out what that is. Okay, so cos 50. So for my calculator, I have to put 50 in first and then hit cos. So 0.6427, we'll say. So times 0.6427. Okay, now this is where bedmath gets tricky. It's usually what we want to do is add this and then subtract this, but we can't actually do that because there's multiplication. And the first step in bedmath is to multiply. So this is the first thing we need to figure out. So we'll take our calculator out. And that number needs to be multiplied by negative 9,600. So I'm going to leave it in there times 9,600 when it's negative. Okay, so that is equal to, and that number. So we'll repeat that number. That is, first actually I'll write out the rest. So we have a squared. I keep the 3,600 plus my 6,400. Okay, and then my next number in my calculator is minus 6,170.76. So you don't have to memorize the numbers. It's just the process that's important. So 617. I think that's right. I might have already forgotten. Yeah, 7076. Okay, this makes math a lot easier now that we've carried out that step because it's this plus this minus this. That's what our number is going to be. So I'll put that into a calculator very quickly. So we have a squared is equal to, and we'll add up all those numbers. Since this number is already in my calculator, I'm going to leave it in there and just add the next two. So plus 6,400 plus 3,600. There we go. 382923. 3823. Okay. So is that it? Are we done? Is that what that side is?
No.
What else do we have to do here?
We have to square it.
Yeah, because this a is squared, okay, I got to move the square to the other side. How do I move it to the other side? Do you know what the opposite operation is?
Division.
Won't be division. Division's for multiplication.
So we have to add it.
Adding would be subtraction. This one is a square root is the opposite sign. Yeah. Okay, so we have a is equal to the square root of that. So I'll find the square root of that. Again, what's great is that number's still in my calculator, so I only have to hit one button. I just have to find it. Where's my square root button? Oh, here it is. So I just hit this button, and it's going to find the square root of this number, 61.88. So a is equal to 61.88, which makes relative sense, 61.88 meters. Okay, so we've now found the side. I'm going to get you to try a question, and then I'm going to do the angle way. Okay, so we'll plug it in and solve our angle.